Hey everyone, before we dive into today's episode, I want to take a moment to tell you about something that has become a daily practice for me. Young You Organics White Sage Smudge Spray. Now, if you're like me and appreciate the benefits of energy cleansing but want a smoke-free alternative, this spray is perfect for you. Made with white sage, clary sage, palo santo, rosemary, and lemongrass essential oils, with added sea salt and blue apatite crystals, it offers all the powerful cleansing properties of traditional smudging without the need for burning sage.
This spray is quick, it's easy, and it's portable, whether you're at home, in the car, or at work. This spray can help clear out negative energy, reset your space, create a calm, peaceful environment wherever you are. I personally love using it before recording these episodes. I use it on my kids before they go to bed. I use it on myself before I go to bed and when I wake up. And it helps to create a really centered, relaxed, and grounded atmosphere. So, if you want to enhance your spiritual practice in a clean, convenient way, check out Young You Organics White Sage Smudge Spray. That's youngyouorganics.com. And we will include a link to the product in the description. And with that, let's get into the conversation.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evolving the Conversation podcast, where I'm here with my co host, Melissa, and myself. And before we get into it, Melissa wants to mention one of her creative endeavors that she is going to be offering to people. So take it away.
Sure, thanks. So, for the month of January, I'm going to be hosting a Facebook group dedicated to sharing breathwork, all designed to help people, whether you're experienced with breathwork or not, to get grounded, to clear out and to clear out our any emotions and to connect into our source of inner peace so we could start the year with on a fresh, clean slate.
Beautiful. Yeah, it'll be good to, start the new year in a practice that is going to be something positive for you. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. We'll definitely be focusing on grounding, like I said, feeling our feelings, connecting to ourself, and also connecting to source, universe, whatever you relate to that's around you. Connecting to the connection that we all have. I think it'll be fruitful for me and for everyone who joins me.
Yeah, and so we'll get a link posted in the description.
Yeah, definitely. And it'll all be short practices between like 5 to, 15 or 20 minutes. And I'm also planning on having longer sessions. If you join the group, I'll give you a Zoom link for those where we could do more like kind of like meditative sessions. Those will be longer, um, yeah, longer sessions, but TBD when those are. Probably on the weekends during the month of January.
Yeah, and just real quick, for someone who might be on the fence about joining, what would be the benefit of joining this group and doing the breathwork together? Excuse me.
Well, I mean, I think breathwork has so many benefits. It really is a tool you could use anytime, any place. So you'll learn lots of different breaths. So you could kind of feel out and try different ones, see what works for you and what doesn't. I'll be sharing grounding practices, breathwork for grounding. Like I said, you could use the breath too to clear out, to help kind of move stuck and stagnant emotions. And those could be, that could be helpful to feel differently, to feel better. And yeah, I think it's just a great tool for all. It helps on every single level of your health, whether you're looking for physical improvement, improvements in your physical health or your mental health or emotional health or energetic health or spiritual health. It checks all of those boxes.
Great. So if you're interested in joining, it will be in the description.
Yes, I hope to see you there.
So today we are going to be talking about the shamanic practice and how the shamanic practice is about knowing spirit and understanding spirit beyond belief, beyond dogma, beyond ideology, beyond doctrine. And that, from my understanding and how I have been exploring shamanism, is the purest form of shamanism. And um, as I started to explore shamanism, I was encouraged to literally do Control Alt Delete on all of my belief systems and my dogma and my ideology, and it was an incredible training that I'm very thankful for and still involved in too, as far as releasing beliefs that are still sort of like hidden in my sub and unconscious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's easy to have lots of limiting beliefs in there.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes they're hard to face because like you don't want to, or I want to keep it in an I statement, but I have had difficulty with releasing some beliefs because they're comfortable. To be to be quite honest, they're comfortable to stick to, even though they might not be grounded in the truth of reality.
Yeah, I think too, for myself at least, I don't always know what I'm necessarily believing.
Yeah, yeah,
It's hard to know like what every single behavior is running on, what belief every behavior or what action you're taking, what the underlying belief about that is. And unless you're literally like analyzing every single thing you do and like bringing it back to the belief, sometimes I just don't know.
yeah, yeah. The easy ones for me were I started with the religious beliefs, ideology, and doctrine that I was taught. And it was really interesting. When I started on this path about 9 years ago, I really rejected all of it, right?
All
And
of
then
religion.
yeah, like all of the teachings. I was like, okay, that was all belief. And it was. I mean, it was kind of like you're taught to believe these things, right? And then I started to revisit it recently in the Christian religion, a lot of the teachings, and yeah, and exploring the spirit of Christ. It's interesting because like not everything is a false belief that I was taught in the church. There's just some key ones that were like pretty big ones, right? Like the Punisher God and sin, and that the that the Punisher God is going to punish the sin, and you're gonna go to hell if you sin, and like all this kind of other shit. To be quite honest, and exploring that has led me to understand like yes, those are the false conclusions, right? But then in the same aspect of like there being a loving God and that God truly is based in just pure love and the light of divinity and the light of the universe, that's something I found to be true. And so it's through that exploration of like releasing the belief in ideology and doctrine of the religion to be able to understand the raw truth of it. And through shamanism of exploring spirit, like that, like exploration spirit, right? Like the spirit of exploration and channeling that and to be open to what is has aided me in being able to understand truth and the spirit of truth itself.
Sorry, I don't know what to say. What process do you go through to let go of a false belief?
First, knowing that it's actually um, a false belief, like is this thing true or not true? Do I believe it to be true when it really isn't? So that's where beliefs are misleading, because you could believe something to be true even though it's not actually true. And there's been many instances in my life, especially like growing up in a church where I was like that instance of like taught like God is the punishing God, right? And like believing that, and the being separate from God and believing that, and all of these things that I was taught through religion of, and this is just like one instance of a false belief where it actually like wreaked havoc on my mind essentially for a while, and understanding that's not actually true, I explored really what the truth is. I invoke my core allies to be able to, or teach me what truth really is in my daily life, and in all the daily ceremonies and the plant medicine ceremonies and the journey ceremonies and all of it.
So you find the belief and then you do ceremonies to help.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to tell like which one comes first because it's just so intertwined in my life anymore, where it's sometimes it's in the ceremony, sometimes it's in daily life, and then if I find it in ceremony, then it plays out in my daily life, and then if I find it in daily life, it plays out in my ceremonies. And so it just sort of all kind of intertwined with each other. And touching upon what I was touching upon before of having beliefs sort of stored in the subconscious and unconscious, sometimes I'm just not fully conscious of like what they are until they come to my conscious awareness, to where then I'm able to handle it. And it
Yeah.
just sort of like plays out in linear time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's only for you. I think that's what the process for everyone. And I don't think you're also the only person that hasn't concluded false beliefs. That's what we do
Right,
as
I
like
wasn't
a young
speaking.
person, right? Something happens and then you say, that always happens, or that's that thing. That's how that works.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like if I'm
exactly.
bad, if I'm bad, then love gets taken away. I get sent to my room and I'm ignored. So when I'm bad, I get punished. Or if I do something bad, I get punished. Right? Like we have
Yeah.
very simple minds when we're younger, and everything is personal because we only have the one point of view that we're responsible for everything.
Yeah, and I think how that would be described in more traditional shamanism would be that when you've had those traumas of love being taken away, part of you gets stuck in the past, and that is when you would need um, a soul recovery, or however you call it. I like calling it soul recovery instead of loss, um, but yeah, totally. And I just wanted to keep it in an I statement instead of generalizing to everyone else.
Oh yeah, no, but I don't know if it's like I think that that's like a generally accepted, well, I don't know, I guess like in psychology that's what they what that kind of like science, is it science? What that kind of philosophy tells you how beliefs are created.
Absolutely. Um, I'm glad you mentioned science too. Um, one of my teachers mentioned that science is post invention of shamanism, although I don't know if I would say shamanism is an invention, but shamanism predates science as a means of exploring what the universe is. And lately I've been practicing more understanding like what the scientific method is so that I could understand science and be able to then wield that in the shamanism as well. And understanding like what is the spirit of science. I think at its core, it's a method of exploring the universe and coming to conclusions of what the truth really is, even though, in today's world we get like the religion of science, right? Trust the science.
Yeah, I mean, I think science is an exploration, right? It's having a question and then kind of testing to see whether that question is um, accurate or
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah. And I see the similarities between that and shamanism, where as a shaman would say, what does this spirit do? And then explore it. And where for the shaman to be able to be clear and concise about what this spirit is, the shaman has to not make any false conclusions upon exploring the spirit. Because if you falsely conclude something about that spirit, then you're in a state of delusion about what that spirit actually is. And the same thing goes for science too, right? Like, okay, we have Big Bang. Well, what's that? What is the Big Bang? What occurred however many billions of years ago? I don't really know exactly how long, but I mean, I think there's a lot of false conclusions in saying like that might be the beginning of the universe. Who knows? I don't really know.
Yeah, I don't think that's like a the Big Bang isn't. I think it's just more of like this is a generally accepted idea. I don't think it's like we know with certainty. At least that's my understanding.
Yeah.
Whereas potentially, I guess there are some other things in science that they know with certainty.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Newton nailed it with gravity.
Yeah, I
Well, who
think that one
knows?
exists.
Let's say it again.
I said I think that one exists.
That one exists, so we could be sure of that. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating, right? Because, we can prove it in science and that gravity really does exist. And in shamanism, you can explore what the spirit of gravity is. In the facilitator course that we were part of, our teacher mentioned something of the architects of the universe. And I've been exploring like what are the core spirits, the core architects of the universe? Gravity, light, creativity, creation. That's as far as I've got. But like I've in exploring that, I could see how those things are true of okay, like what is this universe really made of? Well, it's really made of gravity, it's really made of light, and it's always creating. And so exploring that spirit of what truth really is and in invoking my guides and my guardians and my power animals to teach me how to embody the truth, it helps me more understand what the truth really is and if it's truly something that's a false belief or not. Now, I'm not saying I'm perfect at this because I still know that there are things that I'm working out in my psyche that could be false beliefs.
Yeah, I don't know how you when you would know if you were ever finished. I've gotten every belief.
Yeah, I don't know as if like I'll ever really in this lifetime be rid of all beliefs. Hope to. That'd be great. That'd be great, right? But yeah, you just take it little by little.
Yeah, as they come.
Yeah, the first hurdle for me was understanding um, that a false belief is actually a delusion. And in our society, we get taught that delusion is absolutely like a bad thing to be. Meanwhile, everyone's delusional, right? Like everyone has a false belief. I can guarantee you that somewhere along the line. And so it's not about like whether you're delusional or not. It's about, from my understanding of these practices, the willingness to be able to confront those things in your own psyche and just say, hey, yo, I'm a human. Like, all right, I'm capable of creating false conclusions, but like, what am I going to do about it? Do I want to live in the truth or do I want to live in that delusionary bubble? And the thing about delusions is that they'll last for a period of time and you can live in it for a period of time, but eventually that delusionary bubble is going to pop. You see it over and over again, right? You saw it with COVID. You saw all these delusions that were created that created so many illusions. And then once the scientists, the actual people who were doing the science behind it, not just caught in some ideology of science, they started to figure out more and more things about this. And the more and more things they figured out about this, the more that delusionary narrative started to burst. And then people went nuts, right? Because that's what happens when, you confront these false beliefs, because it's like, oh my God, I thought this one thing was true, but now I figured out it's not true at all. And then it's easy to go crazy then, but like you just got to stay grounded. You got to stay grounded in what you know. You stay grounded in like that God's always loving you no matter what. You stay grounded in the fact that you're here, part of Earth, you're being held stable in gravity, and then you laugh at yourself, right? Because like I mean, in my own life, I've created so many false conclusions that were just like downright ridiculous, and that when I found out about it, like, what else am I gonna do? I just gotta laugh at myself because like getting all bent out of shape and serious over it is not gonna lead me anywhere good. So I'll give
Mm,
myself a good lull.
yeah. It is confusing though when you thought things were a certain way. I've had that experience where I've thought something was one way and it wasn't, but part of, but I lived part of my life thinking that this thing was really happening when something else was happening. It's easy to feel very ungrounded and then
Yeah.
to lose trust.
That's where I would go to Jesus Christ and just say, Jesus Christ, please teach me how to be unconditionally loving towards these things that just drove me crazy. Right? Because, like you said, it leads to untrust, it leads to anger, especially when you know if these illusions that were played on you. I don't want to say like all society is illusional, but collectively, there has been illusions that were broadcasted out. And I don't want to get into like anyone specifically because they've been throughout history, but illusions that were broadcasted out on purpose to be able to confuse people for whatever reason. Like it's pretty twisted shit in all honesty. And then like figuring these things out, it has pissed me off in a way of like, and I don't even have to say like big societal, like there's been people in my life who intentionally lied to me. And then I, take them, and before I would have believed them. Anymore, I would just take them at face value and say, well, I don't really know. But before, if I was lied to and I believed that lie, and then for whatever reason, it turned out that I figured out the truth about this lie and knew that they were truly lying to me, like, yeah, that has really upset me before.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So it's like multifaceted of what it really means to awaken to the truth.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on that you have to fix.
Yeah. And going back to the original statement of the shamanic path being a path of learning spirit, right? Like spirits are energy, like spirits equals energies. And so learning is its own energy, understanding it is its own energy, and knowing is its own energy. Understanding spirit, learning spirit. It's like learning the energy of understanding, learning the energy of knowing, learning the energy of truth, learning the energy of learning itself. It's such a beautiful exploration. I love it.
Yeah, it sounds like it served you really well.
You too.
Yeah. Yeah, I have to say that has. I like that it's experiential.
I do too. Because when you keep it to experiential, it's not reverberating like something somebody put on the chalkboard. It's just you learn it in your life and so you know it.
Yeah, I find right now we have to remind our kids that they're in a system of learning that is very like they're just being fed information and being tested on how well they learn and can process that information, and then that's really just one way of learning, and really not, I don't know. You get into like better and best in that kind of learning. I think I think that's where I've learned a lot of that.
Do you mean the better, best as far as like ranking of the grades of the classroom?
Yeah. Or just like falling into, right, like a comparison of, I mean, you get grade, you're right, like you're saying, like you get grades or um yeah, like you're how well you're doing versus like I'm just doing. And this is just where I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, so with that kind of learning, there's a lot of undoing. A lot of undoing having to
Oh,
learn.
yeah. Yeah, I'm doing a lot, that's for sure, with the type of learning that we're speaking about with the experiential knowledge. That's for sure. I had a Spanish teacher. Um, this wasn't in school or anything. This was my recent Spanish teacher, and um, I love his teaching. His teaching was you have to figure out learning how you learn.
Mm,
Because you're taught in school, like, this is how you learn, right? And it's like box of like, sometimes you might be a circle and you don't exactly fit within that circle of
yeah.
learn.
Yeah, I mean, the school is really just targeted towards, right, the kids that could sit and absorb information. I mean, I think the teachers try their best to alter the presentations in the ways that they can
I would like to think that.
to target different styles of learning. But yeah, that would be awesome if you learned in school, like, this is how I learn best. Because that's certainly information you could then take with you.
Yeah, I mean, there are schools that are like that. Unfortunately, that's not the public schooling system, though.
Yeah, and then the schools that are not public are typically, mm, yeah, they're only accessible to people that have the means to access them.
Yeah, yeah, so that's why I say it's pretty unfortunate, really.
Yeah, I guess it's like most systems that we have. They were set up a certain way with whatever knowledge and understanding that people had at a point in the time that we'd call the past, and that they've just continued on. Whether we've learned new stuff or not, they haven't exactly adjusted with a deeper or a more broad understanding.
Yeah, wonder what the world would be like if we were all fostered in a way of which we were given like the nourishment to be able to understand our own unique learning style and how we learn, what would it be?
Yeah, it would certainly look different.
That's for sure.
I mean, I guess I see some of the challenges in that. Like, how do you set up schools for everyone? There's just so many challenges that come with not imagining something new, but actually like creating something new. And then on such a large scale.
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah,
different if we were just like 25 people in our village and we had to figure it out for them.
yeah, we live in such a complicated system anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it could be done. I think what you're saying though is actually spot on though, of like it has to be like a mixture between the two of like, okay, your unique learning style, but we still want everyone to read and know how to do basic arithmetic. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and I'm not saying it's impossible, but I think it is just very complicated. And right, like how do you serve so many people? I think it's almost probably similar to like it's probably not the same as like food either, but right, like we figured out one way of being able to have so many people be fed. And is it the best way?
Perhaps it does need some refining, but I also want to say, like, whoever thought it was a good idea to be able to feed this many people, like, good job. I was,
Yeah.
just simple things like that. This is kind of, I don't want to bring it off topic, but just the like, of the topic of gratitude, on Sunday night in ceremony, I had that candle lit right next to me, and I was like, man, whoever invented the candle and thought it was a good idea to make a candle, like, thank you. And I was like, oh, thank you for all these inventions of like these people in the past. And I was invoking like all of the past ancestors. I was like, you guys had some good ideas. And girls,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's such an important perspective to always just have that, like, everyone was just doing their best. And I mean, the population really has flourished in terms of numbers. So there's some success there. I'm sure that like the education rate, the rates of people being out of poverty, the rates of people that are educated, all those things always are increasing.
Yeah, and tying it into like what we were talking about in the beginning of like really understanding what spirit is. When we paint things as just being completely negative, we blind ourselves to what actually is.
Yeah, I agree. And all those people too, like if you think about this just reminds me of, thinking how I mentioned how, a lot of our parenting is what causes some of our false beliefs. Um, but like even our parents were always doing the best that they can, and they were also entrenched in, something larger than them that was kind of feeding them maybe not truthful information.
Yeah, a lot of the false beliefs, have been passed down generation to generation to generation. That's why it's important to not really, blame the parent when they were just, you know, giving something that they were given that they didn't really know any better.
Yeah. I mean, I think of that with my kids all the time, like, oops. Oops, sorry. Really fucked that one up. Sorry about that.
It's funny.
Yeah, I mean, that's almost like what we were talking about earlier. Like, do you teach your kids about Santa Claus? So Lucas is 10. So 10 years ago, like, what was I even thinking? Or, like, how many false false ideologies was I stuck in 10 years ago?
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, like I've heard it before that, you know, we come to Earth to be awakened or something like that. I mean, like, is it true? I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I can't say with certainty, but like the more I've been exploring, it's like maybe. I can't say for sure, but it
Yeah, I don't
definitely
know.
seems to be what we're doing.
I mean, I guess that could be
Awakening.
your choice, right? To awaken or not.
Yeah, some people are willfully, willfully ignorant, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think it's hard to say that everyone's like willfully ignorant. Is that saying that they're ignorant on purpose? Like they're choosing to not be?
No, no, that's what I meant. Like, for lack of a better term, what I was describing is like, you know, and I've been here too. I've been here in this situation of like I like waking up so painful sometimes to like the truth of reality. Like you don't want to, right? It's like you catch that whiff of truth and you're like, I want to go
Yeah,
back to the delusion until that one bursts.
I just don't know if it's for everybody. I mean, it's the same way as that like not everyone's like an NFL quarterback. It's for a few select people. Not everyone's a computer programmer. Not everyone wants to be a home builder.
Yeah,
There's different personalities, there's different temperaments, there's different, an entire constitutions for everybody. Maybe not everyone is created to awaken.
perhaps not. Or maybe it's a matter of scale of like what are you open and willing to awaken to? What are you ready to awaken to? Not everyone's ready to awaken to everything. I don't know if I am, to be quite honest. I want to be, I strive to be, and then there's that pesky subconscious and unconscious.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. Could only kind of just mm, have I guess, just have an idea.
I think it's an intention.
Oh yeah, but I'm kind of like just wondering, is it for everyone to do? Or maybe perhaps almost like I've read about like in animal studies how like, a certain amount of animal could of a species could figure out how to do something and then like all of a sudden everyone like learns how to do it.
The hundredth monkey phenomenon.
Is that what that's called?
Yeah, yeah, like where the monkeys along the coast started learning how to crack open shells, and by the hundredth monkey, they the scientists started reporting how monkeys around the world started doing the same thing. I think it's kind of hard to tell, but it's still a phenomenon.
Yeah, so perhaps like human awakening is something like that. Like it's not going to be something that everyone takes up, is actively participating in, but
Right.
the awakening does end up affecting everybody.
Yeah, it makes me think about what Jesus and his apostles were doing and how what they were doing just reverberates through time. Like, was everyone, uh, doing what they were doing back then? No, but look at the impact that they've had in consciousness. Like, love your neighbor as yourself, love your enemy. Like these aren't easy teachings, right? But if you follow them, they have a benefit. Yeah, I like how you put that, right? Of perhaps it's just, and it's not every like there's maybe like sections all around the world of like people figuring out this part of consciousness, that part of consciousness, and this part of consciousness, and you might not be figuring out this part of consciousness, but you're figuring out that part of consciousness, and then the species is just evolving and and churning. And I want to be part of the consciousness that's just based in truth. Because for me, that is what leads to mental stability and grounding, even if it's hard to face.
Yeah,
I've,
definitely
I've mentioned
mental
this before.
stability.
Say it again. Sorry.
I said definitely the mental stability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's always a benefit in the long term, positive, of really exploring the false conclusions that is in your own psyche. Short term sucks, right? Like we were having this conversation offline. Short term, yeah, it sucks sometimes for sure. It's
Hmm.
hard. But in months and years and decades, you're gonna be better off for it. I often think, you know, that is really what uh, divine medicine really is, just truth of reality. Knowing, learning, understanding the truth, like I was just saying, when you were just saying, creates that mental stability and that grounding to like what it is that it actually is.
Yeah. It's stable.
It's stable. Back to Santa Claus.
Ugh.
um, that's a tough one.
Hmm. It really is. Well, my kids still believe in Santa this year.
I would imagine it's so hard. Like we were talking about this offline, but I would imagine how it's so hard being a parent because like your kids, like they and all the other kids that they're hanging around with too, right? It's like they want that in a way. I think it's like the microcosm of like wanting to be, well, you couldn't really know anything different, right? Like I was gonna say it'd be the microcosm of like wanting to be in the delusionary state, but if you didn't know anything else, right? Like how upset were
Yeah.
you when you figured out that it was your parents leaving presents under the Christmas tree?
I mean, I wasn't mad at my parents. I think I was just maybe disappointed that this, it wasn't like an earth-shattering, um, it wasn't an earth-shattering realization, right? It wasn't like I felt so ungrounded and that I had been lied to. I think it was more just, it was disappointing.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I felt the
Like that
same
this
of like,
fantasy, it was more of like a fantasy.
yeah, yeah. When you were saying that, I was thinking about my childhood and like what you said of like the disappointment Santa Claus isn't actually like coming and leaving gifts. Because like I remember when I was a kid, like Santa Claus was like, like awesome, like believing that this like weird being, this weird being in the North Pole hanging out with elves is delivering presents to people. Like that was like like magical to think about, right? And then it's like delusionary bubble
Yeah.
bursts, and it's like, oh, well, this is reality.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of memories as well of like my like Christmases with my family, like Christmas Eve. It was always a very big celebration for our family, and there was a lot of Santa involved. And those are really great memories.
Yeah,
I don't
I
look back and I'm not like, oh, my fucking parents. Like, why did you have their Christmas Eve celebration? And why
right.
did my cousin dress up as Santa? And why did my dad pretend to like hear Santa on the roof? I'm not mad about that. And at the same time, I do recognize like that it is a total lie.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm not mad about it either. It's just like you were saying, and I was saying, it's like the disappointment of like realizing, like, oh, like Santa's not actually going around giving the
Yeah.
gifts. I would that'd be pretty freaking wild, if they.
It's almost like a rite of passage in a way of just kind of like growing up, like I'm not always going to be taken care of. I can't always just run around innocently. Even like young kids, like you can't always just run around naked in your backyard or in your house. Which sometimes I'm like a little bit confused about that too because I know there's like lots of like, you know, human weird stuff that goes on with like sexuality. So I guess like in this day and age, you can't do that. But there's like a lot of things, right? Like little girls, they could run around like naked in the backyard up until a certain point, but then that kind of like innocence transitions and then they have to be like clothed. I've seen it like with the kids even going for walks with the neighbors, like the neighbor who's a girl, like couldn't take her shirt off when the boys did. And there's that like this is the reality. That kind of like I don't know, yeah, like almost like a disappointment or like a rude awakening kind of. Or like this is what I'm growing into. I don't know. I don't know what that is.
How would you just, well, I mean, you did describe what it is, but how did all of that feel when um like you're given that reality, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, like noticing this stuff with the kids and like the nudity, I'm like, I guess that's just what you have to do.
True.
No, I'm not, for me, it is kind of still like a little bit of a, I don't know, unclear thing. Like there are certain ways I feel about stuff, but then I also know I have to like teach my kids to live like in the society, like the true society that they live in, right? Not the one that I'd like for them to be living in or the idealized society, but like the actual society that they're living in. So, I mean, there could be certain things I'd like for them to teach them and know, but I actually also have to like teach them according to everyone else, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes complete sense. I think that's really wise in the sense of looking at our society for what it is and saying, like, well, this is what it is. And there's a certain amount of conformity in which, we need to have to be able to survive.
Yeah. Like, for example, the other day, James just like pulled his pants down. I was like, James, just pull your pants up. He's like, what? You said in the house I could do this. I'm like, all right. But he got in trouble last year at school for talking about his big penis. So I had to tell him, like, okay, James, we live in a culture where, like, there's some body parts that, for whatever reason, people don't like mentioning them in public. But if you're in our house, you could talk about it. That's one of those things that I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, right. Like, it's exactly, what I meant as far as like I think that is wise in the sense of looking at society for exactly what it is, not deluding yourself in your own ideology, for better or worse about what you want society to be, and really seeing what society is and, you know, teaching your children societal norms that really do lead to conformity for better or worse so that we can survive,
Yeah, I
right?
mean, they have to be able to, right, like function in when they leave my house or in
Yeah,
someone else's house.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Must be tough being a parent.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't remember how or if Louis, my husband, and I decided, are we going to teach the kids about Santa Claus? Like, I don't remember, how we came to that conclusion, or was it like we're just going with the flow of what everyone else does? I know I've certainly done that before.
I feel for parents on that one as far as like, you know, that's a tough one. That's definitely a tough one, the whole Santa Claus thing, tooth
Yeah.
fairy, Easter bunny, all
I mean,
that.
even thinking of like just talking about it now, right? Like how um just how much I loved the Christmas Eve as a child,
Yeah.
almost wondering like, oh, if I don't give that to my kids, are they missing out on something?
I always loved Christmas Eve as a kid too. I feel like that was like I liked Christmas Eve more than Christmas Day.
Yeah, same for us. It was a bigger celebration.
Yeah, and just like I remember driving back home from my grandparents' house, I'm like looking up at the stars and just like seeing the stars and being like, oh wow, I wonder like where Santa Claus is. But like then like being like, wow, the stars are really beautiful. I love the stars. Right? Yeah. I mean, I think it always leads to like this kind of discussion of like you said, like, we are living in a society. These are in our culture anyway, and I mean there's in culture there's many different aspects of culture, but at least in like it's I mean I wouldn't consider myself like a Christian in the sense of like the religion of it, but like there's that aspect of it, right? Of like in our culture, Christmas, Santa Claus, and yeah, like I said, I feel for parents because, like if you teach your kids something else, they go to school with something else, and then like what does that lead to? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. It's complicated being human.
Yeah, yeah,
I wish we could have. I mean, I know nothing could have been different, and I do recognize everyone was doing their best, but some of the complexity, I just wish was not quite so complex. I don't know if it could have been done a different way.
I mean, could have. I don't think it could have been done a different
No,
way.
I mean,
It just
everything
played
could
out.
only be the way it was.
Yeah, yeah. Should it have been? Well, that's a
Yeah,
different
right. I guess
topic.
that's maybe what I was questioning. Like, I know it literally could not have been any different, but like, could it have been? I don't know.
Yeah, should it have been? I would say like in certain aspects, yeah. I mean, should it have been based in truth? Well, yeah. And this is just generally speaking, not just like at Santa Claus or whatever, but like any kind of these traditions that we have that really are based in illusion. Like, should they have been something different? Yeah, I wish they were, you know, but they weren't, and it could have only been the way that it was.
Yeah, no turning that back.
Turning that back, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It just surprises me too of like Christmas, of how the true essence of Christmas is celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, whether it was in December or not, right? It's just like that celebration of a man who was born who taught people how to be good to one another, right? And like, it's a symbol in many ways of like you have the mother and you have the father and you have like our governments at that time fucking with people and like really making their life hard, and this child was born in a manger, and like there was still love, right? And then it's like, no, Coca-Cola came along, like, no, it's about buying shit. We're gonna turn it into a marketing holiday.
Mm, yeah. Well, for a lot of people, like giving gifts is loving, is a way they
This is
show
true.
love.
This is true, right? And I mean, it definitely, it seems like it stems from the whole part of the story of like the wise men showing up and giving gifts.
Yeah, bringing gifts in like a celebration.
Yeah,
Yeah, like giving something, receiving something, which are all part of that story, right? Like the world received Jesus. They were received by the wise men and the gifts.
mm. And then Jesus, grew up and became an adult and started giving people his teachings about what it truly means to be in alignment with the divine and unconditional love.
Yeah, I mean, and most people that are participating in Christmas probably do have like a love for their children, a love for their families, a love for the community, a love for the, everything that comes along with it.
Yeah, I mean, how amazing is it of a loving mother and father giving gifts to their children just because it's like part of like a societal type of enculturated norm.
I
Like, I
know.
love you. I want you to have these things so that you know you're not different than anyone else and that you can
Right.
enjoy these things, right? It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's beautiful now that we're breaking it down.
Yeah. I mean, and that's what's kind of like confusing about it too, because I mean, love is everything. So it could be anything, right? And who am I to judge the way that someone else is gonna love?
It just reminds me of like those videos you see where like the kid gets gifted like a potato, like an avocado or something.
I was looking at the batteries the other day when I was on the line at the grocery store and just laughing. Like my cousins used to get batteries in their stocking, but I don't think they would get like the toys they needed the batteries for. It was just like my uncle was so clueless.
That's funny.
I know. It's like, oh, just what I wanted, like a 9 volt.
That's hilarious. Yay, 9 volt.
Yeah, great. Like, what did these go in? The smoke detectors?
Give me that. Puts it in the smoke
Yeah.
detector.
Oh, I was looking for that.
Ah, good. Thank you, Santa.
Yeah, thank God now we could shut up that beeping.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, no answers on the Santa Claus front today, but
I think this is our what, second year, third year of exploring the topic of Santa Claus.
I don't
This
know.
is as far
Probably. I
as
wonder
we've
what we
got.
said. I wonder what we said last year. I got to go back to that episode. I was probably saying the same things. Like,
I,
why did
you
we
know, I think
choose? Why did we choose Santa? Why did we go
I
this
think
route?
we brought it more to light this year, though.
More light.
I think we brought it more to light of like understanding of like it's still an act of love.
I mean, ultimately, that's really what it is. Honestly, even like, I feel like when people are punishing their kids, they feel like, oh, like this is how they learn. I'm teaching them.
Going back to what we were saying about being in that delusional state, right? Like I'm like the parent is in a delusional state around they think they're doing this for the well-being of the child, not realizing they're falsely concluding that well-being and actually harming them.
Yeah. My neighbor was telling me that, well, first of all, they have two elves on the shelf for both of their kids. I was like, wow, guys, you're A plus on that. My kids have to share one. That he decided to tell his kids that he speaks elf. And now he said that he has to like speak elf to his elf, and the kids are like asking him to tell the elf things and and like ask it questions. He's like, now I'm fucking talking elf. I'm like, that's your bed.
That's your bed, you lay in it.
I mean, he loves his kids, you know? It's like the nutty things that we do without even like recognizing it at the time.
Yeah, not easy being human.
Nope.
Going back to that,
It's
not
not
easy
easy
being
being an elf speaker.
not easy being an L speaker for sure.
That is one thing I will not be learning this year.
No elf for you.
No elf for me. No.
You're not gonna learn how to conjugate an elf.
No. It's enough that I have to remember to hide that thing every night. My kids actually woke me up this morning because Louis hid the elf last night, but then they couldn't find it this morning. So they woke me up to come down and find the elf for them.
That's funny. That
Hmm.
is hilarious. It's
But I
cute.
mean, how cute is it too that like they want to wake each other up at 6:30 in the morning and go downstairs together and
That is cute. It's
yeah.
great.
I
I'm
know.
happy that you're having that experience with Lou.
They're like, Mom, the elf's face doesn't change. I'm like, what do you want? I don't know. I don't know what to say. They're like, how is the elf so stiff? I guess also because there's also Netflix movies or shows about like Elf on the Shelf, which we watched one of them. I was like, can we not watch this one? But Lucas wanted to, so we watched it. I'm like, this is just an advertisement for Elf on the Shelf.
They know how to get you.
Oh my
Hook you
God,
in.
seriously. But he's like, why is our elf so stiff?
Funny. Have you seen these videos of where there will be like a Christmas party and there will be like kids gathered around and then somebody in a Grinch costume comes in and steals the present and the kids just lose their shit. I love it. I love it so much. It's so funny to watch that and the kids are just like crying. They're trying to like beat up the Grinch. That's the kind of parent I want to be. I want to fuck with my kids so much.
Aw. That reminds me, last year we did a white elephant, which is where it's a gift exchange where you just buy almost like a gag gift and wrap it up. I guess it doesn't have to be a gag gift. Maybe you would buy like something you want or whatever. Anyway, you buy gifts and they kind of go in the middle, and then everyone takes a turn and you pick a gift, or you could pick a gift someone else already took. So I picked a gift during Louis' family's white elephant exchange. I picked a gift, and then someone took the gift from me, and James got so mad that he went and took that gift that the girl that I think it was my sister-in-law took, and he like took it and left the house and ran out of the house with the gift because he wanted it so badly.
Was it for you?
Yeah, yeah. It was a gift that I had taken. Yeah, it
Oh,
wasn't even for him.
that's cute. He's probably like looking after his mom.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of cute. And I mean, sorry, Aunt Shine, I'm not sure if that's a gift I have, but it's been sitting in my basement. I'm like, I'm not doing this white elephant thing again. The kids are like, have we ever used that thing? It's like I don't, it was like not a smoothie maker, like an ice cream maker or something. I don't know, but it's in my basement since last Christmas.
Nice, nice. Well, you got an ice cream maker now.
Hmm.
Smoothie maker, whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I'm like, it can't be a smoothie maker because I have a blender, but whatever. All right. I think we're
Yep,
at about an hour.
we are.
Just shooting the
Well,
shit at this point.
it all tied together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And if you have any problem with false conclusions, just write us in. And if you need help at all, or you just want to help a listening ear, feel free to comment, or feel free to comment on anything that we talked about and what your experience is in exploring shamanism. If you've explored these principles or understanding the truth and all of it. So, with that, thanks everyone. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. All right, everybody.
Adios.
Bye.